Sir, first let's ask a question from sir. Sir, what do you think about the current undergraduate projects right now, as in your perspective?
You're asking me?
Yes, sir.
Research, the main problem the students face in the research, they think too much into it. Too much into it means don't think that you have to do a rocket science research at undergraduate level. No, you don't need to. Find out a small problem that you need a solution. And then develop, use that problem, sort it out. That is how the research developed. Remember, when the bulb was first invented, they were not going to invent a bulb. They were going to invent something else. And the bulb came up. What I'm trying to say, don't try to get into deep. Sort out a small problem, undergraduate level research, that is enough. When you go into masters, you will deal with a bigger research. And then when you are doing an MPhil or PhD, you go into deep level. It starts simple. And then you will enjoy doing the research. Yeah, the other problem I find, the most of the supervisors or the institution side is pushing the research into the students. And that is also not good. You guys need to research team. Research team mean, remember at KDU, I am sure this is all only KDU. I forgot to ask. This is only KDU students or there are other students?
No, sir. We have undergraduates all around from Sri Lanka, even from Jaffna. They are joining some people as well, sir.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, most of the universities, right, they're trying to push what the supervisor want to do. Now, that is the wrong approach. That is why students are not enjoying it. Let the students decide what they want to do. They can find out a small problem to sort out. Now, if I talk to KDU, recently, a friend of mine carried a patient for a surgery in KDU hospital. And the person was very upset and called me because of I still have some attachments to KDU. We can discuss it later little. What happened? And he says, it is very inefficient system. I say, what is the inefficiency? He says, normally within 20 minutes time, even public general hospital in Colombo, a patient will be admitted. But this one is taking longer time. Say, if group of students, your final year students, can approach the KDU hospital manager or administrator and streamline. Actually, there are more than one research project. It can be done a systems analysis and design project to streamline the process. That is non-computer science or computer science project, and then develop a small app. Even before patient go there, the person can fill the app, use the app, and transfer the send information. And when the patient reach, everything is ready. It doesn't take more than 5 minutes.
Yes, sir. There's an opportunity. Yes. Actually, I think our students can take that chance as well as an opportunity, an idea for your final year projects. So it's a viable and it's a practical problem that is always worth solving. And I think by using a simple technologies, you can come reach to a much more efficiency solution for that. And let's move on to Mr. Shakthi Weerasinghe. Shakthi, what do you think about the undergraduate projects in industrial perspective? What do you think about undergraduate projects right now in Sri Lanka?
So, well, if I'm to put it in a very general way of how the industry would like to see the final year projects, it's to basically a place where the students would be mature would eventually get matured enough to be more of thinkers and people who are capable of doing things. So this is to do with the various skills that are pretty much gained through research, but it has to do with being more creative and being able to do something very creative and being able to apply what your research or the question or the solution that you're coming up to a very practical problem that, as Professor said before. So it doesn't have to be something to do with, it doesn't have to start with a technology. It has to always start with a real sort of question, so that you as an individual or a researcher could put forth your creativity, or culminating whatever you have learned throughout the undergraduate career, into doing something which could even disrupt or could have an impact to the society or a target group. Essentially, again, addressing a very practical question. So in terms of undergraduate research, so if a student is able to focus on those aspects and to do a good research, it shows on, it basically shows on, it goes on to show the depth as an individual from which the industry could actually gain a lot of value from, and in return the value towards whatever the product or the software that you're working on. Because there is always a difference between doing a really good product versus developing just a software. So the depth perception that an industry would get out of maybe your CV could be a good research that has enough depth, so that it is sort of an assurance that assurance for the company or the industry to say that this person has this capability to think logically and go about and do something out of the box. So do things in a broader scope, rather than focusing on the breadth of just what you are working on, but also considering about the depth to a very good level. So that is basically the expectation. So but as the professor mentioned as well, it's always great to take even a very small project, at least at the undergraduate level, and do it and address it in a very, very practical way, and in a creative way that could show out that depth and as a result develop all that personality depth for yourself at the end of the career.
Definitely, I think that would be like one of the key points that you have mentioned out there. Start with the problem, not the technology. I think that's the most common mistake that most of us do right now. Always we fond of a technology, and then we pursue projects into that technology. Like we trying to, let's take it a blockchain. We trying to do everything in a blockchain, but there are limits. There are quite a practical scenarios that we can use the blockchain and sometimes not, just as an example. I think that's a clear point mentioned by Mr. Shakthi, and I think all of you, our fresh undergraduates, got an idea what industry expects from you from your projects. I think let's again move on to Professor Damith. Sir, what do you think about, no, actually it's not what do you think, how you see in Sri Lankan's perspective, most of people get confused when it comes to research and a project. Basically, most of the people are doing is they do a project rather than a research. At the end of the day, they come up with a product, not some solution or realistic valuations or nothing like that, nothing related to research, but just as amazing products with amazing UIs. That's the most common mistakenly getting endpoints of undergraduates right now in Sri Lanka. So what's your perspective of that, and how we can improve and encourage students into the researchers rather than they end up being product developers?
I mean, you are you are talking in the final year project. Am I
Uh,
right, Vidura? Right?
yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, because I don't want to confuse the students because they want to know the final year project. Now, my personal view on that. I don't know whether it is same as the KDU view. I can give you some examples here. I'm 30 years teaching in this university now, University of Technology, Jamaica. There's another Sri Lankan professor here, Faculty of Law, Professor Pratibha Mahanamheva. So there are two Sri
Okay.
Lankan professors now. Now, my view on research and project is might be different from the conventional view, right? But I will come into the conventional view after. Now, when I was doing a lot of undergraduate supervising research projects for last 30 years, maybe close to 100 now. My point to the students, I say pick up a problem, because the problem what we were doing in undergraduate level, waste in manpower, and I'm completely against wasting students or manpower. We are, as Jamaica is also a developing country, I mean per capita is little higher than Sri Lanka, I mean little mean about 4 or 5 higher times higher than, but it's still a developing country, poor country. We cannot waste our time. Now, if we are wasting undergraduate students' time for nothing, they do a research because they have to get, I think 5 credits or 6 credits for the undergraduate research, right? Just because of getting credits, right? And they just do a project. At the end of the year, we throw it away. And I definitely said I don't want to supervise a waste. Go and find somebody, and I refuse. Couple of years I refuse to supervise. Now then, when the students keep coming, and I said, all right, find a problem and let us sort out the problem on the condition. And if it is a university project, they have to implement it. Yeah, currently now I have, I think, over 10 projects implemented in the same university, and I think there are 2 projects outside, undergraduate projects, and there are a couple of publications. I think almost all are published on IEEE. Now, what I am saying, it doesn't matter whether it is a research or a project, do something, there is an output. You know why? When the students enjoy what they are doing, they learn. If they are just doing it because of for the sake of getting 3 or 5 credits, I don't know how much is the KDU number of credits.
We are offering 9 credits for the final year
Or
projects.
9. See, that's a massive amount of manpower, students' knowledge, right? So let them do it, and they enjoy it, and they learn a lot. It is the supervisor who can fit into little research into the project. You don't need a massive scale PhD research content onto undergraduate project. You don't really need. Let them enjoy the project while doing a reasonable amount of research, like, you know, data collection methods, and how to write a small hypothesis. Even they don't know how to write a small hypothesis, it is okay. But supervisor can lead them to do a little research while they are doing the project. So I think what we need to do as a developing country, get the students develop something in that research project. Now, if you want me to explain what is the difference between a research and a project, right? Um, to implement or to do a workable project, right? You might not have any research, or sometimes there might be research. Suppose to reach the output or outcome of the project, if there is no existing knowledge or theory, we might have to do research. But if it is a simple project that can be implemented using currently existing knowledge, then we don't need to do real research.
Yes.
But still, the supervisor can let the students think whether the existing way of doing this project or implementing the outcome of this project can be changed, and that become research. Say, that is why I said the supervisor can really put in input, right? Divert into a little research, and then let the students achieve the outcome of the project.
Yes, I think that's quite a clear-cut point to our undergraduates to so have an idea what we need to do. It's always about the output in most cases, rather than whether it's a research or a project. It's always about the output. Okay, let's move on to Mr. Shakthi. Shakthi, what's industrial perspective when it's come to a project-based manner or a research-based manner for final year undergraduates? Like, what are you guys expecting to them to do, a project or a research? Over to you.
Okay, so well, it's a question that is not that doesn't have a very well-defined answer. But to say in terms of whether you want to see a person coming out of a project, so much of project experience versus somebody coming out of research experience, there is sort of a little difference that we usually say when it comes to people who comes with the research background, a bit more of research background. So, as I mentioned in the previous one, it's always the skills that you acquire through research that most matter when it comes to companies which are more software focused of sort. There are companies which are a bit more research focused, but when it comes to companies which are a bit more software companies in the sense, which are more of ISP, like which are mostly what you say in Sri Lankan context. The skills that you bring forth out of being a good researcher is the one that matters when it comes to working on a daily basis. So if I just take a very simple example of how would you look at the depths of working. So when it comes to a product development, more often than not, we would usually invest more time on identifying the proper architecture, the proper solutions for a particular solution that we are going to implement. But that essentially is sort of a research that we would do on a daily basis in order to identify and implement something that would last a long time, and that can have the impact that you're expecting out of it. So that is sort of a research that is being put. That is sort of a very simple sort of a research that is being that would be taken up on a daily basis. And when it comes to product development, it's always so if you are not investing so much time on to properly identify the problem and to come up with a solution, basically by properly framing it in a proper way, by asking yourself or the team asking the right questions, which needs to be asked at the very start of the implementation, you are basically going to face problems in the future. For example, there is, in terms of software engineering, we do see that when a project team or a particular project develops technical debt on the long run, as a result of not asking the right questions at the right time and mainly at the initial phases, you are technically running down the funnel of where you are not really capable of putting out new features or maybe improving your team's ability to improve their skills or maybe their lead time or the ability to deliver more frequently. So then again, it's all about the skills in terms of what you develop through research that you put forth at different stages of different stages of product development as well as on a daily basis. Because even if you are a different profession, not just a software engineer, you are always faced with problems which would always not have the certain answers, and certain or answers which are not clearly visible. So you would have to do the research to get the understanding, or could be using the information that is available, and sort of put the effort and the analytical skills, your creativity, to come about a solution that could optimize or maybe achieve to some level um, uh, uh, of a solution. So in my point of view, it would be really great to have a solid research background, because that also to do with the fact that technical expertise is quite common. So we can find people who are good at different technologies. Could be in Angular, could be in .NET, could be Node.js, or could be in any one specific technology. But it's really hard to find people who has this really a good understanding of your surrounding, and people with the ability to frame questions in the right way by asking the right questions. So that is my take on that. So it would be really great to see a good research foundation as
I
well,
think
but with experience as well.
that's a really good point to talk about. Again, I had to bump into you again, Shakthi, for another small question. Like when it's come to the projects, when the context is much more vague, I think that research, as you said, the research skills are quite helpful to understand what's going on and what we need to solve and all. And when again I'm bumping into another question, what's your idea, or do you have any idea that we can share with our undergraduates, how we can improve that analytical skill set, and as well as the soft skill set, and the most important, the patience to till we reach into a goal, how we can improve those skills?
Okay, well, I think before I get to that, it would be great if we can have Professor Damith talking about it a bit as well, because
ask from him, sir, what do you think when it's come to developing those skills, the analytical skills and the soft skills and the patience and the right focus that we need to have, samma satya, to reach into a goal? So how we can improve those? How we can, like, is there any particular way or any theoretical manner that we can approach those goals, or do we need to find it by ourselves? So what do you think, sir?
Now, before we go to analytical skills, let us go to simple skill, cooking. You cannot just go to the kitchen and start cooking, right?
Yes.
Say, you have to develop skills. You have to develop, number one. To develop the skill, you have to practice it. You can name anything like cooking, swimming. Can you just jump into the water and swim? No, you're going to die. So you have to practice it to develop the skill. That means do it and do it and do it. Now, getting into analytical skills. Remember, analytical skills might demand some brain power. The brain power means not really the knowledge, but the intelligence. Now, say, you know the difference between the knowledge and the intelligence. Intelligence normally come in with genetics, normal in general, but you can develop also little. Now, analytical skills now, proper combination of intelligence born with little reasonable good intelligence level, we can say IQ, given them the little fundamental tools. Remember, when you go into a swimming, you don't just jump, you learn from somebody or your mother or father how to swim, or you observe how to swim, right? So that is we call a little knowledge. That I am sure in the universities, I think KDU and even all the UGC syllabuses have analytical knowledge, how to do it. Now, given those two, and let the student practice the skill. Now, as swimming, you take them into the water, not deep water, shallow water, and let them practice it, and let them practice it, and more practice, and now develop this skill. So these are the 3 ingredients I mentioned: intelligence, knowledge about analytical skills, and practice, practice, practice. Like if you get into cooking, practice make perfect. Even if you are the brightest person on the earth, you cannot cook the very first day we went to the kitchen. You have to get little knowledge, how much salt need to be put, how much, you see, if you are cooking bandakka, if you overcook, it doesn't have no taste. Am I right? It has to cook the proper time, and that proper time come with practice. Say those 3 ingredients are very important to get into analytical skills. Like most of the engineering and computing, you are developing an app, analytical skills are very important. Say hence it depends on the task you do, right? It depends on the task you do. Certain level of analytical skills are important, even for your day-to-day living. To go to Abans and buy an electrical fan, you need a little bit of analytical skills. Otherwise, you will bring something that is not powerful enough to cool down your room. Too small, not powerful enough. Yep.
Yes, I think that would be like, even that's much more like some manner that I can even take off. I think that's a really good point you taking out. The practice. Practice is the key. That I even in my life, I think that would be the key for me to do a lot of things in some particular manner as well. So as when into Shakthi, I think you also agree with what Professor said, right?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with all what I had mentioned about, and even though I did say that there are particular skills that we look for when it comes to having a good research background, it's always the good practice that you have, the good practice and the experience that you have at the back of it that would allow it to be done at the required level ultimately. And it is in fact if you come back to the industrial standpoint and in the picture of a graduate who is actually coming into work as a software engineer, it's basically the skills that would improve would basically be the basis of your profession. But ultimately, what makes a person cut above the rest, or would make a person do better than over the baseline of a certain skill level, would always be the things that are that also so mentioned as the things that need to be developed, or could be developed, or are intuitively there to be worked with.
Yeah, I think that would be clear to all of our undergraduates. That's the level of requirement from the industry. And let's bump into a professor again. Sir, we have a common problem. It's quite like a complaint from the undergraduates that I'm also hearing. And I think Shakti, you also heard this previously in some other sessions as well. When it's come to the final year projects, most of the supervisors, what they're telling is find your passion and find an area that you are interested, and then do your project. So, but when it comes to that context, most of the students are much more like end up being clueless. What they can't find their inner soil self, and they can't find who they are and how it helped them to like do their own project by their interests. They are quite like clueless because they still don't know what they're interested. They are just doing this degree just because it sounds cool, or just because their parents told, or just because the result score matches to that degree. Or they're doing this degree for just to do a degree, for just to say doing a degree. So change their mindset and into a position that where they can find what they are in love or what they are really good at to do their research. How we can make them do that, sir? Professor Damith?
Yeah, sorry, my microphone was off. Sorry. Now, let me get this question clarified. Now we are going to. The question is about the selection of the project, not the selection of the undergraduate degree. Am I right?
Yes, sir. About the project.
Selection of the project. Yeah. Now remember, selection of the project, there is no much bigger scope for the student. Now if the student is doing computing, right, I am sure majority of these students are computing students, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now if they are doing computing, it should be at least close by, not 100% computing, right, but at least close by computing, right? Application with computing at least. So hence, the students don't have a much different scope um, of um, of going to a different area. They cannot go and do a research on fishing. They cannot go and develop why the trees get green leaves, not the leaves ash color, right? That is completely the botany, or the fishing development, or that type of degree. Now, say hence there is the given scope for the project selection. Now, let us analyze now. Students are clueless. Now, if the students are clueless, now we have solutions. Now you guys develop this forum webinar. This is a very good solution for the participants, right? Now, at the end of the day, I am sure they will benefit out of this, because the clueless people can find out. Actually, at the end, they can ask the questions. I am sure you're going to allow them to ask questions, right? If you have time, and they can benefit. The other one, like the students can go and talk to the professors and lecturers, like um, um, if they don't know anything, but they should have a little bit of a clue actually, and go and talk to a lecturer or the professor and ask, I don't know what to select, what is available. But the common mistake most of the students do it, and I am telling them not to do, is don't select a project, because if you do it, it is going to easy to find a job. They're not going to learn anything. Don't think of a job at this time. You have to find a job, but think something that you think is interesting. By doing it, you're going to enjoy it. You want to sort out that problem. You think I can sort it out and I won't sort out that problem. Then you're going to get into deep thinking. That is what is necessary in undergraduate research. They don't select. Now, why, when you are doing it, if your passion is in line with the current up-to-date technology. Suppose your passion is doing something on artificial intelligence. You are maybe you are a little lucky person, because artificial intelligence is something now these days most researchers or very demanding field, right? Easy to find jobs in the future. Artificial intelligence, data mining is part of artificial intelligence anyway. um, and big data, right? We call data science. Like if you're doing something on data science, we used to call it databases, right? That is the most demanding area now. Say if you link your research, or it is automatically linked with those current areas um, of most demanding current areas, then you are lucky. But do not just go and think about a job at this time, because if I do this research on this area, I am going to get good job. Don't think like that way. I don't think that is the way to go. Then you're going to fed up and you're not going to perform. You might fail, because we have a lot of groups this semester. Actually, our final years had to repeat the project. I don't know, KDU and in Sri Lanka, whether do they fail the students. Unfortunately, when the students fail, say they have to sit for one more year, and that is very expensive here. Yeah.
I think you already answered my next question as well, sir. I was about to ask, when people like bump into the projects just because they need to have a good job at the end of the day. That's the common mistake that most of the undergraduates do. Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to add this a little bit more onto that, Fidra. So I would have to very strongly agree with the professor on that note, and the fact that you should not be doing a project or the research for the sake of getting a job. It's not always. It won't really be helping out, as I mentioned. It's not the things that you have done, but the expected depth that you carry forward into your interview, or the company with you when you are being recruited, that is most valuable. And just to share a bit of experience on my end and my final year project as well. So when we were looking into projects and the ideas, so we had a bit of an idea on what we want to address. So that came up as a result of a certain circumstance that we identified in the society at that time. But when we started doing it and started working towards a few months, we understood that the solution that we were talking about wasn't really the one which would make a good result. Or so to say, it wasn't really valid to a certain point. So in terms of just to relate to students being clueless to a certain extent. So we had we were more into the stocks trading as on the basis of identifying or extracting information from the social media. So when we hit that issue, the next thing what we did was we did our own research on the background as well. But again, the best thing that we did at that point was to talk to the real people who were really working with this area. So to say, the investment bankers, the stock traders, the people who would interact with this business on a daily basis, to get their insight and understand what should we really be focusing on. So that is how we basically we gathered knowledge on that, and as with their input as well, we basically had the opportunity to frame our question in the right way. Ultimately, we being able to identify a very niche section of stock trading to which we could apply a solution to. So the other point I would also like to stress, and maybe Professor can chip in as well. So there could be research. It's not always it is not always necessary that the research would end up in all the positive results on Earth. So it should. So even though if you end up end up not having the greatest of results, you still would still have the knowledge or the understanding or all the facts to support that this type of a methodology or to say this kind of strategy would not be applicable to this area because of these reasons. So that you basically you're essentially contributing to the research community that these are the drawbacks if you are to apply this technique, or if you want to improve, or if you want to look at coming up with strategies or methodologies to overcome this, or a model or a model in a further research. You are basically giving up that information for a researcher to come, that these are not the thing. These are areas that could not be applied, or could not be applied, or things which are not really right for this particular instance. So I would say, in my opinion, it's you should not be feared to fail, and you should always, and it's not always the positive results of research that is valuable. The negative results could have an impact as well.
I think that's one of the quite key areas that most of the people are getting afraid of, fear of failure. Because of that, most of the good projects not even getting executed just because they are not like confident about themselves as well. They think if this fails, if this didn't work out, or if this bring out the wrong or the not the wrong, I think the negative results, that would be the end of their degree. But now I think, guys, you guys got it crystal clearly that it's not like that. It's always good to take the risk and step into a project areas and projects, researchers that quite phenomenal manner, and trust yourself. In most time, trust yourself. Okay, once again, let's bump into our Professor Damith. Sir, when it's come to declaring the scope, how an undergraduate declare a scope within the range of their knowledge and the expertise to do a research or a final year project?
Um, okay. Now that is, I don't leave student alone in that. That is where the supervisor need to come. Remember, the student does not know to get the 8 credits or 9 credits out of this project, what he is doing worthwhile. The good interaction with the supervisor is the key to the success, whether it is undergraduate, whether it is MSc research, whether it is a MPhil research, whether it is a PhD research. Good interaction with the supervisor. Now, the scope will mean students also participate, but the supervisor need to help the students. Now, but let me extend little bit more. Now, when a student reach me to get advice for MPhil and PhD, I tell the students, you have to, until you finish the PhD, assume Lord Buddha is your supervisor. you believe in. Adahanawa again in Sinhala, believe in your supervisor. Otherwise, you are not going to get your MPhil or PhD. Full stop. Now, when it comes to undergraduate and MSc research, those are not really research, right? Those are little lower grade, beginning of the research knowledge. You still have to have a excellent communication with your supervisor. Otherwise, your life going to be difficult, because remember, especially undergraduate research, they know nothing about research. They go to a couple of lectures. I think we introduced KDU computer science students module called research methodology at third year. And then we do it also fourth year. I don't know whether it still continue, but most of the universities, there is no module called research methodology. So they don't nothing about research theory. So hence, the supervisor can guide them, help them to learn about the research methodology, and will guide the students. Hence, for the students, I'm saying keep communication. Like my MPhil and master PhD students, they have all my communications. They give me, I give them until midnight. They can call me if they want, and I have a very good rapport. I ask them to walk with me, ride. I ride bicycles. They can ride with me. I give them the full access to me, MPhil and PhD students. And master's students, they have more access. Even undergraduate students, I give them my personal WhatsApp and personal email, because I want them to talk to me, tell them what not to do, especially potholes. I don't want them to jump into pothole and get injured and stop the project. Hence the scope get it determined by the supervisor. And you are properly directed, and then you know exactly where you are going. But remember, there is a tactic some supervisors do. I do too. When I think students is lazy, students don't want to do it, I get them, let them go wild. Don't show them the correct path, because especially MPhil and PhD students, they need to read, they need to find out we call width. They need to have a width while they are going to the depth. Say we force them to go to the depth at the third year or fourth year of the research. But at the first 2 years, we force them to go to the width. That means bigger scope. But undergraduate research, 6 months, 9 months research in my university. I don't know how much is in Sri Lankan UGC universities.
Yeah, we have 1 year or 6 months, sir.
Oh, that is excellent. 1 year, 6 months is very good. So that means, and then the supervisors can let the students go wild within the first 6 months, and then and narrow down the scope and guide them to go to the final result during the last couple of months or 6 months. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Awesome. I think that's quite good idea for our undergraduates, how to get clarified with the scope. Okay, Shakthi, how was your experience when you are doing your undergraduate research? How you determine the scope? How you did the width and the depth? How you came to this point where you define, this is I have to do, this is my scope, and after this I have to implement in these things in future? How was your experience?
Okay, so my experience was similar to what the expectation were put forth by a professor. So we started off with the initial background research, and so we made a very baseline understanding of what we need to do first. So from which point we regularly communicated with the supervisor to understand what we should be doing and what we should not be doing. As I mentioned, so there were a couple of instances that we sort of started heading towards the wrong direction, but it was always the communication that we had with the supervisor, as well as the resources and the knowledge that we gained through that time period where we were redirected back into what we were supposed to achieve. So so I mentioned, it's always great, and it's not always great. It's very, very important that you have a very good link between your supervisor when it comes to work, and always have a really solid foundation to what you are on what the sort of domain that you are working on. So just to give a little context to that, so just for understanding the ground, the roots of the domain that we were working on. So very early in our research, when I was an undergraduate, so we started doing a few experiments so with the very basic tools, like so we were more focused on data mining and also as a result of prediction. So we were doing a few market analysis, as well as a very basic baseline experiments on how news items would correlate with the stock variations in the Colombo Stock Exchange. So that was simply to understand the market, and as well as the underlying things that would affect our research going forward. So, and as a result, so when we finished up doing our research, so we were really able to understand the very nitty-gritties of why this result is like this and not what we expected. So this gap was pretty much filled up with the understanding of what we had at the ground level, so that we were able to promote that into the final results that we had. And also with respect to how we understood our scope, it was again with the supervisor, and also when we started framing our question, it was it was certain to a certain extent that these are sort of the most the biggest pain point sort of in the problem. And we were attacking them rather than having to go about the value addition, so the things which could surround it, and putting too much or pretty much the unnecessary effort into into discovering those, because we were quite aware of what the expectation is out of that particular research. So that had a great impact from coming from the supervisor as well. So this is why the interaction is pretty important, and we definitely had that input coming in, and the advantage as a result.
Yeah, so I think that experience, sharing that experience would really help our undergraduates when it's come to their final year projects, I guess. Thank you so much, Shakti. And let's move on to our Professor Damith again. When we are selecting our supervisors, what do you need to consider, and is there any particular manner that we can select the supervisors, or what's the process? What sort of process, supervisors there are, and what kind of student we need to be to get the maximum out of those supervisors? Sir, over to you.
That is a very interesting question, Vidura. You know, students are lucky. You know, when we never had the chance to choose or select who is my mother, who is my father, who is my brother, who is my sister, who is my uncle. No, we didn't get a choice. Am I right? But when we go into final year, we get a choice to select which supervisor or which professor, which lecturer will be my supervisor. In theoretical, yes. But that is not the real case. I can tell you in my perspective. In my perspective, I mean, there is a little battle. It might reach even legal level now, that I refuse to supervise undergraduate projects. For a couple of years, I refuse. The reason, as I said, is a waste of my time. Because the most of the students coming to get that 4 or 5 credits, I even really don't know. And I think it is not here we get money, good amount of money while when you supervise finally a project, but it's not worth waste of time. I currently supervise only masters or PhD MPhil students. That is, and basically hence the students have a limited choice. And there are, I know, and there was a time, and I select the students and I don't let them choose. When I select the students, that means they should have done my subject and get on the top. Get on the top mean they should have at least B plus or A minus to my subject. That is advanced database management systems. I teach here database. And then I call jokers. I do not select jokers. If a student group come to me and ask, they have a project, they want to do it with me, and I first thing go and check what did they get for my subject, and I do whether I know them personally. Otherwise, I refuse. Now that is not a good practice. That's not good thing in the perspective of the students. That is very bad. It is selfishness. But let me tell you, lot of lecturers do, except the juniors. Juniors mean they just join the career, right? They just join as lecturers. They don't do much, and they will accept. The most of the lecturers, senior staff, they only go for the brightest because they want the output. They're looking for the output, and it is really unfortunate. I know students don't like this, right? What is happening now? What is happening now? The students are coming to the universities. Unlike our days, you cannot buy the degrees. Now Sri Lanka has become a very good degree selling shop. Our days, what I'm talking about, I did A level 1980. Those days, going to Moratuwa, you cannot even dream. I don't think I even dream to go to Moratuwa, because it is almost impossible. Now, our days, we're going to learn, because it is extremely impossible to go into a university to do engineering in those days. There was only 2 engineering faculties, Moratuwa and Peradeniya. And Moratuwa was taking 100, and I think Pera was taking 125 or something. 225 students for whole country. And now I think it has gone to about 2,000 or 3,000, and there are so many engineering selling shops. Now, what I am trying to say now, what is happening? Now, the currently students going there not to study, but to buy a certificate. And even Jamaica now that is happening. Students come in with an attitude, I paid, hence you have to pass me, whether I do work or not. Say, hence now, that is the reason, and that is one of the reasons I refuse to supervise jokers who come in to get the 6 credits. I'm not going to spend my time, which I can do a little meditation or help a needy student, even in Sri Lanka, right? So that is a little unfortunate situation. But let me direct now. Perspective or on the viewpoint of the student. If you are serious, remember what I am looking at, serious. Undergraduate, we don't teach rocket science. Undergraduate level, you don't need to be the brightest to get a B plus or A minus. You just need right attitude. Concentrate on your studies. Participate in the lectures. If it is research methodology, there are YouTube videos. When I was teaching KDU in 2013 or 14, I can't remember. The research methodology, I taught, I think, computer science CS30 and CS31. We introduced CS31 in the second year, I think, as a project. Because we wanted to get them into more research. I don't think at that time Morato or no UGC universities was teaching research method. Now, research methods, and I introduced them a lot of YouTube. There are a lot of YouTube videos, and supervisor can guide them and give to the students. You do not need to go and sit in your uniform in a room to learn. There are a lot of YouTube videos you can learn. Now what I'm saying is, if the student's mind, mental condition is ready, if they think in the right direction, don't assume that you are going to buy a degree, get a qualification, because in Sri Lanka, if you don't have a good paper, you can't get a degree. Don't do that. Is a wrong attitude. Don't go there. Study. Be genuine to yourself and to the institute that you're studying. Get the knowledge and do the right thing. And you can learn, as I said, do what you love to do. Don't go and do engineering because you got highest marks in this. No. No, everybody don't need to be engineers. We need a lot of good cooking people. We need a lot of mechanics. We need a lot of art people who can sing nice, who can dance. So go what you love to do. When you go there, you will enjoy. When you enjoy, you deep thinking. You start deep thinking. Improve it because you love it. Now, get into your now the question, right? Students, if they go in the right mind, right perspective, and they will learn a lot and will get the best supervisor, and they will enjoy their project. That's what I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I think undergraduates got I think they not just a partial, I think they got the full idea of how we need to select a supervisor and what kind of supervisor we need to select and who is the supervisor. I think they got the answer for all questions. Thank you so much, sir. I think I cleared my doubts as well, because I have to do my final year project as well in the next year. So let's bump into Shakthi. Shakthi, when it's come to projects, what kind of projects, or do we have any like trending technologies that industry focused on when they like hiring interns or undergraduates, just by the considering under the base of their final year project? Is there any technologies, or is there any common problems or a set of sectors like medicine or teaching, or what's the criteria of that when it's come to the opportunities in industry?
So basically, on my take on this is actually to do with an extension of what the professor mentioned about the attitude. So it's rather not the technology that you have under your belt. It's actually the attitude of the students coming out of universities, the learnability of the students and the attitude to learn is basically the part that we are looking for when it comes to software engineering opportunities. But to directly answer your question, Vidura, on if you want to be contextualized in what sort of what area that you pick for the project or the research, it actually depends. It actually depends if you're targeting a particular career sort of in that particular field. So to say, for example, if you are if you are an undergraduate who is looking into uh, uh, a career in where you have the software developer, maybe in maybe the aerospace or could be the aeronautics, then focusing more on and getting the required getting the practice, the experience, the knowledge, the research skills and all in that area would be great to have when you're applying. So it's always a plus point to see that sort of experience under your belt in a CV or when you start to work. But if you are targeting towards a software company, company or a general ISV or kind of or a similar company, so then it's more, or even if you are looking at if you want to focus on a particular context, still that ability to learn and the attitude to learn and the learnability factor plays a major role than just what you already know. So that comes out as a result of your attitude. So that is the major factor in my point of view.
I think that's a really good understanding for you guys when it's come to not about project or anything, when it's come to the life, even attitude is everything. Okay, I think now we are up for the Q&A session, and those were the pinpoints that we noticed, and now it's open for you all. It's you guys are feel free to unmute your mics and ask the question, or you can pile it up in the chat to everyone section. Then we can have the questions for you guys. No, we can have the answers for your guys' questions. Sure, I was even a bit messed up. Sorry. With these two panelists who are experts in the industry as well as in the education sector. Okay, it's up for you guys. Fire up your questions.
Yeah, Vidura,
Yes,
for the quality of the presentation, quality of the presentation mean the Zoom quality go down when more than 2 or 3 microphones are on. I'm sure you know that.
yes, yes.
Yeah, what you could do, let them use the hand feature. They raise the hand, you unmute their microphone.
Sure.
Because otherwise they don't know who is going to talk. They're going to open up all the microphones. Remember, we have nearly 100 participants, and then the voice quality going to go down, and then the audience lose the interest of staying in.
Yeah.
You understand what I say, right?
Yes, yes, I got it. I got it. Okay, guys, let's use this feature, this hands up feature. Then we can point out the person who have the question, and we can continue the session. Okay, we are open for questions, guys. Anyone? Even fine, just put it up in the chat, and we watch on that as well.
And if they want to ask questions in Sinhala, I am very comfortable with Sinhala. And I'm very sorry that my Tamil is not good. I tried my best to learn when I was in Oluville, my last sabbatical year, Southeastern University, but definitely they can use any Sinhalese or English, no problem.
දැන් අපේ Q&A session එකේ ඔයගලන්ට දැන් age barrier එකක් නැහැ. ඕන විදිහකට අහන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ නිසා ඔයගලන්ට මොකක් ප්‍රශ්නයක් තියෙනවා නම් අපේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ raise hand option එක use කරලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ අපෙන් අහන්න. අපි අනිවාර්යෙන් මේ ප්‍රශ්නේ panelists අපේ දෙන්නෙක් ඉන්නවා. අපේ sir කෙනෙකුයි අපේ ශක්තිය වීරසිංහ අයියා ඉන්නවා. ඔයගලන්ට පුළුවන් මේ ප්‍රශ්න ඒ දෙන්නට යොමු කරන්න. ප්‍රශ්න නැද්ද? Okay, Vidura Wickrama. Yes, Vidura Wickrama, over to you.
Yeah, Vidura wrote the message. Vidura, are you there? You can speak if you are there. If not, he says, I am a mechanical engineering student who likes to pursue software engineering as well. I am currently using YouTube to study. Can you please tell me the path, as I like the automation side?
Yes. Okay. I think the question is to clarify what is the sort of industrial opportunities that exist for automation. Is it, Vidura?
I think he's much more asking about a particular path or any way that he get to learn about these automation side. I think with the much more practical manner, with the experience in industry, I guess.
Yes, like for mechatronics students, you go for robotic automation. Like, what path should I use? Like in YouTube, there's a lot of courses like I'm Java, Python, and all that, and like APIs and all that. Like for engineers, like mechanical engineers, in order to go for the automation like sites like robotics and all that, what kind of path should we follow? Like software engineering, even it differs right into a huge area. Like for engineers, like what's the path? If I'm going to learn from YouTube or any other internet source, rather than because I'm currently doing a mechanical engineering degree as well.
Okay. So I'm not particularly so to directly answer on that, Mani. So yeah. So what in my context, it's so we are not really working on the automation side of for the hardware part of work, but mostly on the software part. But if I had to give you a very generic answer, it would be if you want to have very good hands-on experience on the area that you're working on, it would be really great that you have that you get yourself into competitions or any technical innovations, or do it or basically think about the innovations that you could do and do it practically to provide solutions. So it would be great that you can have somebody to guide or to provide you some expertise on his or her experience or the backgrounds, because even when it comes to developing something, there are good ways to do, there are better ways to do, and there are the excellent ways to do. So the understanding actually comes from of actually working with or under somebody who actually has some experience. So it would be great that if you can have some sort of guidance, but still the more experience that could be through personal experience or could be through competitions or any sort of that would be really great to have before you move on to any industry.
Sir, you got any answer
like
for this?
can I have like a Like
Yes,
even Viduraya, you have been doing like Eric, all those Arduino and all that. Like for engineers, like for mechatronic engineers, even they always go for robotic automation, like machine learning and all that. I would like to know the blueprint. That means the pathway that I should go.
okay. I think for that I can add something for you if panelists don't mind. Uh, when it's come to robotic process automation or robotics automation, it's better you can like stick first with the good basics on those microcontrollers as well as microprocessors to have the basic understanding of the electronics and how these things work and incorporate. And then it's come to the next level, you can move on with embedded systems and the programming concepts. Then it's come to the next step, hardcore programming about algorithms and the data structures and what you need to be solved and what are the things that we need to consider when we are solving a problem. And after that, you can move on with much more hands-on experience with real-life problems by joining intra-university projects. After that, you can move on with like UiPath or some kind of industrial level robotic process automation stuff and the robotics automation stuff. I think that's the path I'm taking. I think I can help you on that. If you, I think we answered your question. Vidura.
Yes, it was solved. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. And we have another question from CSC 30 Rupekshan. Yes, Rupekshan?
Hello everyone. First of all, I would thank the organizing team, like organizing this wonderful opportunity for us. And my question is, if I continue my research project and like say I just completed my project, it's like so I'm planning to achieve the ultimate goal of like particular sector, just for an example, the data science something. So in the given period, I just completed small part. I want to further develop the rest of the part to achieve the ultimate goal. Like, can I complete the rest of the part with the help of industrial company as a corporate support? Is that possible or not?
Question was not that much of clear. Shakti, did you get the question?
I'm not 100% clear on that, Vidura. So if at all I've got the gist of it, it's basically that you have been working on a certain project and you want to continue that with the industry placement that you are hoping to get. Is it the questions? And if at all, if the industry would want to help you out or have the opportunity to continue on that. Was it the question?
Yeah, I didn't hear much.
Working on a project.
I think your connection is bit laggy. It's quite good if you can like type up your question and put it up in the chat, and then we can proceed with answering the question with our panelists. Okay, till he fire up his question. Sir, we got another question here from Disnaga Mallikaryachi. When choosing a project, do we have to focus on problem which already have solutions and need a better solution, or give a solution which very essential for some small party which not have any solution yet proposed. Professor Damith, I think in this context,
both are okay. There is no must. You can improve, as I said now, that KDU hospital, the patient complained that taking long time to admit the patient. That means they have a system but inefficient. So we can improve the efficiency, right? That is a very good project. Or if there is a case, there is no solutions at all, you can propose a solution to a problem. Now, if you go back to the history of Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka is very, very good at making water tanks. Water tanks mean in Sri Lanka we call them well. Sri Lanka is very popular in the world for well, and one of the first countries on the world, and collected the rainwater and use it for irrigation using well. And the dagaba, the stupas, so dagabas. And I think we got some of the technology from India, but we had them for last at least 2000 years. Say now those things when they were doing, actually they did research, even though those written were not written or maybe destroyed, but there were research. Say now those are brand new research or empirical research. Now you can do that also, but it might be little harder. But if you bright enough, doing a new solution is the best. But if you don't want to go on that path, you can improve an existing methodology, and that is research. So I think I answered that question.
yes, I think we did.
And I'll just add something there so just a little bit of data, something that I've read through. So there are, in terms of computer science research, there was a publication which, as far as I remember, there were actually three major types of research that are being done in computer science. So to say, by popularity. So one of them was to do with enhanced analytical modeling. So it's basically that coming up with better predictability assessment. So practicability assessments, like the modeling stuff. And the second out of the three most popular areas, there was another in enhancing solutions, the research on solutions that enhance existing solutions. And the third one was enhancements to tools and methods. So that's to do with coming up with tools which could improve the existing methods, or the ease of, maybe even ease of using. So those were the three things. So anything, so any research that goes into either these three, or as Professor mentioned, anything pretty much out of the box or pretty number would still do, just
awesome.
On a statistical basis.
Yeah, I think that's also get clear to our audience. So we can go for another couple of questions, I guess. We are still open for the questions.
Yeah, I'm having a question, both of you guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, Malik. Yes, Malik.
So in last year, we had to do our software projects. So in that case, and our topic was to design a software for student data and analytic stuff. And our supervisor said, So basically, we are trying to use some high-end technologies like machine learning to analyze those data. So our supervisor said he can produce the output of that software even using Excel. So what's your opinion on using high-tech technology rather than using a small one? So what are the pros and cons of both of that? So that's my question.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Manit. I think we got the question rightly captured. First, let's start with Professor Damith, sir.
I didn't get that clear. Can you give me a little brief on the question?
Sure. He's like asking, sir, what are the pros and cons when it's come to the projects rather than using high-tech technology to proceed with the low tech one? He's asking what are the pros and cons of proceeding with the low tech ones rather than going to a high technical solutions with high tech.
I can tell you my perspective on that. This is a myth, and this is the danger of the third world sick mentality. Also, this may draw a little boundary or border between research and project. Remember that the first we discussed that question between the research and project, right? Before I go to that, now let me say this is a problem. That is why we are not growing. That is why we are not doing research, because we have put a mental block on this people mind that research has to be high tech. That is the problem. And then research can be done only the rich countries like US and the Australia and blah blah blah. Rich people have the high tech, and then we are mentally blocked. We are not doing research. But look at now, go back to 2000, 3000, 4000 years ago. Sri Lanka is a developed country. And America has a history of less than 250 years. They were living in Galguhawal. They didn't have no technology. But now, within the last 200 years, they have the high tech. Because they did research from nothing, from scratch. But basically, anyway, American is still the knowledge and the technology from British and American, Germans. But anyway, that's a separate discussion. But what I am trying to say, if we have high tech, it is good. But if we can't afford, as I said, improve something you have. We didn't have high tech, as I said, when we were developing in Wales, Udalu, very basic tools. We achieved. Say, what we need to do actually, improve what we have. Concentrate on your projects. Whether it doesn't matter whether it is high tech or low tech. See whether you can improve with existing technology. Whether what there you can remember when we do a project, first thing is the feasibility study. What is feasibility study? Whether we can get the output at the cost that we can afford. 3 feasibility. One of the 3 feasibility is economic feasibility. So economic feasibility means whether we can we have enough money to do the project or to implement the project. So hence, if we can have a rocket science project, if we have every ingredients to do it, do it. But if we don't have the every ingredients to do a rocket science project, that means we don't do the research. That is what was happening in Sri Lanka. No, do what you can do with existing results, whether it is high tech or low tech, doesn't matter, as long as you are improving an existing methodology to a better methodology, better product. Go by step. That is my perspective on that.
I think we got the solid answer. Shakthi, you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Professor covered everything, and it's a very comprehensive answer on that. So there is no point. So whether it's high tech or low tech. There is no point that if you are working towards reinventing the wheel, but rather if you can, whether if it is low tech or if it is high tech, it doesn't really make much of a difference if you are able to provide a better solution or better methodology, or simply improvements, or if you can actually fill up the gaps that you have identified. So yeah, it doesn't really matter in my point of view as well.
Yeah, it's always like start with where you are and start with what you have.
Yeah.
And I think we have Rupekshan again joining with us. Rupekshan, yes, over to you.
Sorry for the interruption earlier. So my question is, like if I'm continuing my research project, it's a fraction of my ultimate goal, fraction of success in my ultimate goal. So I want to further continue my research project, like to achieve the ultimate goal with the support of corporate company. So is that possible to continue like that further?
Okay, so I guess it comes. The question is towards me, right? So
Yes.
okay, so obviously yes, as I mentioned previously as well, there are companies who work on research, as well as companies who don't explicitly work on, but they have these provisions for doing research, because on baseline the success or sustainability of a company comes with research, and it's basically given. So there are companies in Sri Lanka that supports research, and for example, if you want to keep up with your research and to come to achieve the final goal, you can talk to companies. And if you, for example, there are companies who would fund research projects, and if it is a really great project, they would ultimately incubate some of the projects as well. So there are a couple of projects that are already in the company that I work in right now as well, which are being incubated. So they do provide funding, and even if it may not be the core job that you're working on. Let's say you are recruited as a software engineer or other engineer within a company. Still, there are enough and more provision from a company that allows you to do your research, and ultimately enables you to get to reach reach whatever the goal that you have. So that is an understanding between you and the company. So in our company, as an example, there is actually a provision that allows an employee on a daily basis to do whatever you are that you are basically interested in. There are a daily allocation for that, and there is enough and more resources that the company would be willing to sponsor you, or maybe training, or maybe or funding. So let's say if the company, if you have a very good reputation in research, and you have a very clear goal on what you want to achieve, then there are opportunities that already exist in the company. Like there could be research teams, like there is a one in our team as well, and if that matches up with any of the requirements that you have to gain any particular skill or an experience that you want to achieve, that could be accommodated, and that's basically the agreements or the contract, the mutual understanding between you and the company when it comes to the long term as an employee. So yes, if I'm to summarize that, yes, it is possible, and it's only the matter that you have a very solid goal, and you have that passion and the perseverance, I would say, to achieve that. That would let you achieve because there are enough and more people who convert from being a software engineer and maybe go back to research as well.
I think.
Thank you so much.
Okay, well, thank you so much again, Rukshan, for like clarifying that to all of our audience. And we have another question fired up from Uvindu Hasaranga. I'm sorry, Uvindu Harshana. It's my bad. Uh, is it necessary to use a guided, organized methods when researching? I think this question is directly to our Professor Damith. Sir, is
All
it
right.
necessary?
Yeah, very, very good question. Uvindu is which university, Uvindu?
Uvindu, you are from which university?
KDU, sir.
KDU. KDU has very bright. KDU has bright students, I know. All right. Good question. Now, my answer is yes and no. Now, let me tell you why yes and no. This is a very, very debated question in the research field, or research we now call research is industry, but whatever it is in research, people discuss this question heavily. Now, in undergraduate, let me tell you the reason why we put this final year research project. When I first started in this university, basically my main career, my most of the life is in Jamaica. Even though I was basically, my first was at Moratuwa and then Open University, and send me for my masters, and then I came here. But anyway, we did not have research, final year research project. And then until maybe about 10-15 years, we were the first school or the faculty start in the research. And then now every faculty has their degree as a research component. Now, and why I'm saying now, before say why I'm saying now, let us analyze undergraduate research. We put it there. Actual objective is the students to learn research methodology. Not really let the students to do something useful and the university or the country can benefit. No, that was not the objective. Right? Objective is to let the student learn some research methodologies by practicing, giving them a little project and they practice it. But now when it comes to PhD research is basically we expect you to generate new knowledge. That is why 80% of PhD research or candidates don't get their PhD actually, nearly 80%. Now, because they have to create new knowledge. Now, when there is a PhD research, it is a must. If you do not use the proper guided methodologies, you are not going to reach the exact destination of creating the new knowledge. But now we are coming to undergraduate research. Objective is them to learn research methodology. So hence, I will say yes and no. Why I say yes? You need to learn research methodology, because that is why we put this module, or the research modules is introduced. Now, why I say no? When your parents are putting you in place, when you were small, they said you cannot lie, you cannot kill the animals, you cannot do this. You didn't like it. You started disliking staying at home. That is why you will run to your auntie's home or Nanda gedara hari, Achi gedara hari nu aduwata yanne. to get little freedom, right? So when we are going to lock them, narrow them, when they are doing something, they dislike it. So when the student dislike it, they just doing it to just to get the credits, just to get the credits, not going into deeper level. So that is why this is actually we mean when we talk to the junior lecturers, young lecturers, this is what I am saying, right? People, be very careful when you are handling the student. Do not go there with a book and tell this is the research methodology book and you have to read this and everything has to be done according to this. Don't do that. That is what I am saying to my masters or MPhil students. When you are going to be a lecturer soon, don't go with that attitude. You are really killing this young mind. They start in disliking the research. Say, that is why I said no. Say, we have to balance it out. The supervisor has a great role or to play, or the lecturers has a guest role. But now there are the audience is students. Say, here, now I said to you both perspective, right? Say, it is, yes, you need to learn the research methodology. That is the objective. But no, don't just try to get into everything on that and then start hating. Be little bit, go loose little, and supervisor will come and put you in place. Yeah, that is the answer.
I think, Uvindu, you got your answer crystal clearly. I think even I got a really good answer for that as well. And we have another question again from this Naka Malikarachi. Sir, cybersecurity is an essential and demanding job in the other countries, but in Sri Lanka, there is a less effort and attention paid for that field, as well as there are having only few companies which provide internships regarding cybersecurity. Also, what's the reason for that, sir? I think Mr. Shakthi and Professor Damith both can answer that question in the context of why Sri Lanka in that level still.
Okay, I'll start on that. So there is a bit of a misconception there that Sri Lankan companies are not really paying a lot of attention to security aspect or the cybersecurity, so to say, application security or the cybersecurity. It's not actually the case. We have a good demand, but in my sort of experience, it has been the case that the supply of very good cybersecurity specialists isn't really there. So we, as a resource base, there is sort of a demand, but it needs to improve. It needs to improve in terms of supply, in my point of view. So there is enough and more opportunities for cybersecurity, and it is being more and more given more and more importance within the software companies in the recent past. And we are actually recruiting people to do cybersecurity work, and for cybersecurity engineers, application security engineers as well. So the only matter is that when it comes to finding good people, very competent people who has very good experience under the belt, that has been the lacking part, at least. So if at all the knowledge experience could be improved, and if you are a person who you think can take that opportunity and do the extra mile, there are ample opportunities out there if you go into the market.
Professor Damith?
Now, computer security, it's a good field. I cannot say no. I have to be practicable. But let me go. My philosophy is little different on this, what I am saying. But computer security field is getting bigger. Hence, if that particular student asks the question, thinking that by doing computer security that person cannot find a job, don't worry, there will be jobs. It is going to have jobs in the future. The reason, let me give you a little analysis of what is security. If you get forget about computer security, other security things like um, the people steal cows, harak korang karna, kehel kang kapana, the society become very unethical. They don't follow the 5 commandments of the Lord Buddha or 10 commandments of the Jesus Christ or whatever it is, right? The society become unruly and become criminals. Hence, we're going to need security. That same thing applied to the computer, right? The hackers, full-time hackers are coming. Some people will do for the fun, but most of the people do to make money or steal somebody's data or ransom. Say, hence, computer security is going to be important. But the issue is, when you are going to secure a building, you need a lot of security guards, because if the building is bigger, the number of security guards you need going to be bigger. But when it comes to the computer security, that may not be the case. Because of your organization is big, you need to have 10 computer security experts, and if your small organization is smaller, if you need only one. No, that theory will not or may not apply in the computer security. Because what is happening is, once computer the security algorithms are created, it becoming hardware manufacturing. So it is going to be a hardware. It is not somebody going with a weapon and to attack the hackers. No. So hence, the manpower required as computer security experts might not be exponential increasing like what happened in 40-50 years ago for programmers. You know, programming was the best paid job if you go back to 40-50 years ago. And the demand for programmers, you know, the Indians came, Burutu Pitting came to US, but now they're sending them back. Demand for computer programs dropped. Basically now most of the so-called jobs, computer jobs, are the low level the labor works, data entering. That is basically is now the scanners doing even the data entering also. Say, but anyway, it is a good field, computer security good field, right? But it might not be case like that 40, 30 years, 50 years ago, that the demand for program. But the more labor-oriented jobs like database, I mean, that is my field. Say I have a little biased, like database administrators. Now we go into data mining, artificial intelligence, creating intelligence, mining data. Now those fields you never fail. Always need and more people. So hence, if you really think in studying for a career, my personal view, I encourage people to go on the data science. The data science is reaching now is artificial intelligence reaching more and more demanding careers or more demand manpower. That's my reply for that.
Yeah, and also at the field little thing, I am quite agreed with the professor on his remarks. And yes, true about the comments on the growth. It's actually true. It's not that you have you as a company is having 10 projects and you have maybe, let's say, 2 security engineers, and then you grow up to a lot of other number of projects, and it's not the case that you exponentially require or demand more security engineers in proportion to that. So that's actually true. But there is also one thing that I want to mention on the security side, and it's something that it's being missed in terms of the perception. Most people see the application security by the point of view of the users, of the security of the people who actually provide data or who input their data into the system and getting them protected. But the late paradigm or the recent paradigm is actually shifting sort of on the other way around. It's more about protecting companies from being endangered due to breaches or security issues. For example, let's say GDPR or the new ISO standards when it comes to application security. They are more oriented towards securing companies so that in an event, so that it's sort of precautionary in a way that allows a company to run smoothly, as well as allow them to protect that they don't get into the wrong practices or wrong ways of handling data. So when it comes to operations of internet-based company or a company which has any data that is being fed from outside from users, the role of the importance of a security engineer is actually be more valued within the company perspective because of these reasons. So in my point of view, there is actually a bit of, let's say, yes, it's the previous comments are also true, but in terms of the value of a security engineer to a company is certainly getting increased as well, because it looks more of a requirement to a company, and is more generating more value to the also to the sustainability of the company as well.
I think we answered that question as well. I hope you got the all idea, and we have another question. I think this may be this will be the last question for today's session. It's from Sulakna Karnaratna. Are you going to ask the question? So okay, he has sent it here. So why is documentation more important than coding when it comes to research? Professor Damith, I think it's directly to you, sir.
Now, there is a truth. There is a truth on it. When I was studying, I hated this actually, but I get to know why at the later part of this stage. The reason, as I said, if you talk about research, irrespective whether it is undergraduate, master's, MPhil or PhD, the research is creating new knowledge, full stop. Now, research is creating new knowledge. Let me go back to our ancient Weber. They did excellent. I think the best researchers, most intelligent people on the earth were Sri Lankans. Look at this Anuradhapura Angalata Hatham Ala. You see, at that time, 3,000, 2,000 years ago, where was that knowledge? So we had intelligent people, but what happened? Ape Rajavaru, our kings never documented it. Maybe there was no printing press at that time, but they could have written on the stones. Gallipi wala liyada yana tu. Because the Gallipi okkoma kaduwe naha, they didn't destroy. The white people didn't destroy all of Selalipi, right? Say documentation is important because to keep it for future use. Remember research, when we do research, the first thing is literature review. What is literature review? To check what others have done, right? So to check what others has done, right, we need to document our research, and the next generation will um, um, search on what we have done. Say, hence documentation is needed. But now when you say documentation is needed than coding, say you are talking about a software engineering project, because not all research has coding, but coding also important, because coding is the implementation. You cannot implement a research without coding. There is an important part of coding, but documentation is very, very important in research to pass on to the next generation. Yeah.